This week on the show, we're looking at Marvel making money, the day after Tomorrow War, a Furious Spinoff, Life in Plastic, Snyder's Star Wars, and more right here on the Flippity Flappity JARcast. Welcome to episode 25 of the JARcast Movie Podcast. It is July 12th, and I am Jake from Jacob Anders Reviews, your host this fine Tuesday evening. I hope you are all doing wonderful and had a great week as I did myself. It's a fairly slow news week in the movie industry this week, but there's still enough for us to talk about. Nothing really of big note except for some big money makers at the theaters and all, but beyond that, just a few little stories that we're going to blow through here in just a moment. But first and foremost, let's get started with breaking news. Yeah, I know, right? Black Widow made a whole bunch of fucking money. I'm surprised too. Said fucking nobody. Of course it made a whole lot of money. Black Widow was number one at the box office this past week. And I don't think anybody's surprised. I had said in a previous episode, I think it was last week, the week before, that I would laugh if Fast 9 actually beat Black Widow, but I didn't really have a whole lot of faith in that. Fast 9 had been out for a while. It's still making money, but they've gotten their money. They've made their impression, so it was Black Widow's time. That's why they waited this long. Now, if these two movies had come out at the same time, that would have been interesting, but they didn't. They came out a few weeks apart from each other, and Black Widow killed it. But how much money did it really make? That's the question, because there's some odd goings on here with this reporting. Let's jump right in and analyze it, look a little closer, and see if everything that Disney's saying is 100% authentic. Disney and Marvel's superhero adventure, Black Widow, captured a massive $80 million in its first weekend, crushing the benchmark for the biggest box office debut since the pandemic. I don't know if I can call it crushing, because I believe Fast 9 or F9, whatever, made 70-something million. So it was less than 10 million more than that movie. I'm not saying that it didn't do well. It definitely did well. $80 million, especially in this day and age, is nothing to scoff at. But this is still a $200 million movie. So let's say it needs to make somewhere in the neighborhood of $400 plus million to be profitable. Let's keep that in mind. Moving on, the film starring Scarlett Johansson is the first from the Marvel Cinematic Universe to open simultaneously in movie theaters and on Disney+, where subscribers can rent Black Widow for an extra $30. Disney reported that Black Widow generated more than $60 million in Disney+ Premier Access consumers spent globally. That's a weird sentence they wrote that way. Making the rare occasion in which a studio disclosed the profits made from streaming. Not the rare occasion, oh reporter. This is the only fucking occasion. No one tells what their streaming service does and how much money it's made. No one has done that since, including Disney. This is not the first movie they've released in theaters and on the streaming platform. It's the first Marvel movie they've released that way. But there have been plenty of other movies that Disney Plus has released in theaters and on the Disney Plus platform with this $30 Premier Access thing they got going on, and they've never told us anything. Not even the slightest inkling of an idea of how much these movies have made. But now with Black Widow, they are. Why is that? That is odd. I find it strange. Probably because they want to bolster the amount of money this movie's making for a myriad of different reasons, which we'll get into in a minute. But let's go a little bit deeper in the story. Black Widow collected an additional $78 million from 46 international territories, boosting its global box office haul to an impressive 158 million. Combined with Disney Plus numbers, the final weekend figures sit at 215 million. Black Widow still doesn't have a release date in China. We're going to talk about that too. There's a lot going into this story. That 215 million, that's the number that they're going around touting, saying we made $215 million in our opening weekend. And that's a bit disingenuous because they are including this $60 million that they're saying came from Disney Plus, and this is the first and only time they've ever included those numbers. Typically, when we talk about gross of a film on opening weekend, not typically, like forever, it's always been theatrical, like money it brought in theaters. I'm not saying that 60 million isn't something, but it's a little bit ingenuous. I would probably say this, I would go with the 158 million, and that's not domestic, that is worldwide. Now, they're touting this as this big thing about how it's, and it did make a lot of money. I'm not taking that from it, but compared to something like Fast 9, I mean, that movie, it opened internationally before it opened here domestically. So if you take the first week of international sales that it did and the first week of domestic sales that it did and put them together, it is in fact more than this movie. Just saying, if you're going to compare apples to apples. Now, Fast 9 did not have a premiere access or any type of streaming option, I will say that much. So it didn't, if you wanted to see that movie, you had to go to theaters to see it. So that is a consideration to take as well. One has to wonder how many of these people, they say it's around 2 million people, I believe, accounts for the 60 million. It's kind of hard. They didn't give you a number of people or a number of times it was bought. And I think that the reason that they just said $60 million. They didn't say this many purchases of the film and made $60 million, because I think people would have been able to do the math and definitively say, okay, you're including a Disney Plus subscription of $10 or $15 or whatever it is on top of that, so you're actually saying this is a $40 to $45 ticket price on the movie. Just saying, we don't know, because they released some information that they've never released before for any other movie, but they don't release all the information, so it's kind of like, which one is it? Is that only the $30 premium charge, or are you including the people's subscription charge as well? We don't know. But anywho, moving on from there, Universal's F9 The Fast Saga, the previous record holder for the pandemic-era box office debut, came in a distant second place with $10.8 million this week. Since it released exclusively on the big screen 3 weeks ago, the action sequel starring Vin Diesel has generated $141 million in North America alone. At the international box office, F9 crossed the $400 million mark, boosting its global total to $541.8 million. So, opening weekends are great and all, but at the end of the day, is Black Widow going to make $550 million in order to be the top movie of the year, outpacing F9? Because F9's still out there, it's still making money, but it made $10 million this past weekend. Not the whole week, by the way. When they talk about weekends, they're talking about just those 3 days, not the whole week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So how much it made the whole week, I don't know. Where that movie will end up, I wouldn't be surprised if that movie ends up around the $600 million mark, which is, in this day and age, that's insane. Black Widow, I don't see it, because something else that they don't mention here is that Black Widow's first day was huge. It made, I don't have the number right in front of me, but a lot of that $80 million was in that first day. A lot of the $158 million, rather, was in that first day. Its Saturday sales fell off something insane, like high 40s, 40-something percent. And that, compared to other films, Marvel films and other, was like an insane drop-off. So in other words, a lot of people went and saw it Friday, and a good fair amount still saw it on Saturday, but it was a huge drop-off that they had from one day. I mean, you typically see these kind of drop-offs week to week. Like next weekend would be, a 40 or 50% drop-off. That's not insane. But one day, that's quite a bit. So people are saying that they don't think that this movie is going to have the legs of some other movies like Fast 9 or Quiet Place and things like that, or Quiet Place Part 2 and things like that. That maybe this money it's made, it'll still make more money, but the 158 or 215 million, whatever you want to call it, this might be what it's going to make. It might make more, sure. It may get up to that 250 or even 300 million. But like I said, for this movie to be profitable, it has to make $400 million, and then it starts to make a profit. Anything it makes over $400 million is when it starts to get into profitability territory. Also, another key thing with this film is it is not, as of right now, been released in China, and the whole release in China is up in the air. China is a huge market. We cannot discount it when we're talking about money in movies. There's a shit ton of people in China, and they go see movies like we do. China is not happy with Disney and Marvel right now for a lot of the things that have been going on over the past year or so. And a lot of it has to do with some stuff with Mulan and all that we've talked about here before, but especially some of the things going on with Shang-Chi and even the Immortals, I think. There's some stuff that's been going on that, China is a bit fickle at times with, what they're going to let in. You piss them off and they're like, fuck off, we don't need you here and you're not getting in, because they know that the big studios that have these big, huge tentpole movies that cost hundreds of millions of dollars to make need China to make that money back in a lot of cases. Black Widow needs China. So Marvel is now kind of scrambling, or Marvel and Disney, of, oh shit, we have to get this movie released in China, and China's not happy with us right now. Like, the aforementioned Shang-Chi is not coming to China. They've already said flat out, no, your movie can't come here, we don't want it. And there's been some other ones as well. And like I said, Marvel, China, not on the best of terms. So if they can't get this movie released in China, it's not going to outpace F9. And it's also not, I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't make back its budget. I do think that one of the reasons that they finally released, like for years, no one has released streaming numbers, by the way. But they finally released, not the numbers, but the amount of money they made, those numbers, I guess, was one, to show China, hey, there's money to be made here, because China gets part of the profits. There's money to be made here. Let us in, and you can get some of this. And also, because if they take that away, it is less than F9. 215 million, that's more than F9's debut combined. But if you go to 200, or it's more, 215 is more, 158 is less. I think they wanted to be number one. It's a Marvel movie. They expect to be number one. The movie's also not getting terrible reviews by any means. I don't know of a lot of people that are saying it's awful. There's some people that say it has some, it's debatable as to whether it has some themes in it or does not. I'm not getting into that. Me, myself, personally, not overbearing at least, see a lot of those themes. I guess you could see things wherever you want to see them. Not to say that kind of stuff doesn't happen in Hollywood, but with this particular movie, it wasn't in my face, at least. I think you guys know what kind of themes I'm talking about. But anyway, the movie is not being received great. The vast majority of people, I would say, it's a lukewarm reception. They're saying, yeah, it's good. It's better than Captain Marvel when comparing, the two female Marvel leads. But it's fine. I think a lot of people are saying you don't gotta go to theaters to see this one, and you probably don't gotta spend that $30 extra. Me, myself, in my review, I said you absolutely don't. Wait until it's on a streaming platform and you don't have to pay anything more than your subscription service. But I think that word of mouth has gotten out there, and people are seeing that and saying, oh, well, this is one I can probably just hold off on and see it when it comes on quote-unquote video or video on demand. I guess we'll find out next week, though, when we get next week's numbers, to see if Black Widow actually has some longer legs. I wouldn't be surprised, whether I report on it or not, I don't know, that Disney goes the extra mile to try and eke out every single dollar they can and put it out there for the masses to know. If next week we're hearing more Disney Plus numbers and all that, they're going to put out, they want this movie to be at least perceived as making as much money as possible, because they can't say that they have a failure. Not with Marvel. Marvel movies don't fail, and Disney's not going to allow that to happen. Once again, it might not. It might have long legs, and maybe over this week and next week it comes out and it makes just as much then, and it's a huge success. Do I think the movie's worth it? No, not me personally. I didn't think it was a bad movie. I was entertained while watching it. I just don't think it's worth going to the theaters or spending $30 extra on top of a subscription fee to see it. It's fine. It's an okay movie. But you know what? Worse movies have made more money, so the movie's quality does not so much play into this thing. But I'm interested to see what the numbers look like next week. We have another big film coming out next week. This one will be going to streaming as well. I'm wondering how much it will cut into it. This movie we're going to talk about later it's going to theaters, but I don't think it's going to cut into it. I think it's going to do much more at home. I don't think it's going to be so much a big theater juggernaut. Could be wrong, but I don't think it is going to be. But we're going to find out. I think Black Widow has at least a solid this week and next week to kind of be the reigning champ and to kind of free for all. The theaters are all there. So go out there, Black Widow. You do you. Make that money, honey. From there, we're going on to a sequel, a very quickly greenlit sequel, or at least quick that we heard about this movie being greenlit, to much the chagrin of many people out there, not many, but a fair amount of people out there that do not like someone who is involved in this movie, this particular film that some people wanted to fail, just not because of the movie, but because of who's involved with it for purely dumb reasons, honestly. I don't myself agree with these things. I think, actors or individuals, they don't have, unless they bring their stuff into the movie. An actor is an actor. They're there acting. They're not being themselves. So I don't hold their personal beliefs, unless they're like, Harvey Weinstein or something. I don't hold their personal beliefs against them, whether they align with mine or not. I don't give a fuck what you do in your spare time. Now, if you haven't guessed, I'm talking about Mr. Christopher Pratt and how the Tomorrow War 2 is happening. But not tomorrow. It's going to be a little bit. Deadline reports that Amazon and Skydance are already in early development on the Tomorrow War 2. I hope they don't call it that. I doubt they will. The talks to have director Chris McKay and screenwriter Zack Dean return alongside cast members such as Chris Pratt, Yvonne Strahovski, Betty Gilpin, Sam Richardson, Edwin Hodge, and J.K. Simmons. Pretty much everybody who survived the first movie. All the main characters. McKay has already teased more films while recently speaking with Variety. Now, some of this stuff is kind of interesting because if you've seen The Tomorrow War, I won't spoil it. The end is... I guess you could always have something happen, but it's somewhat... I don't know where they go from there, But here, some of the things he says are a bit interesting. We had such a fun design process, the filmmaker said. We talked about the world of these creatures, where they came from, how they were created or raised, and how they were maybe being used. I like the world-building experiments, especially when you have the potential for some time travel. I think that a sequel could go in a lot of fun areas, and the ethnographic study of the aliens in their world and where they come from and what their purpose was and all that kind of thing. So yeah, I think that could be a lot of fun, and and with this cast too, we're just getting started. So yeah, some of the exploring the aliens, and once again, I don't want to get into spoilers because the movie is still kind of fresh and some people may not have seen it, but their origin or possible origin is somewhat hinted at in the film. You do get some answers to a degree, but there's also some stuff left open. And that particular aspect of the film, I'd be interested in seeing, more of. And you've got the same characters coming back, or the same actors. So, I'd be interested in seeing more from the Tomorrow War. I enjoyed the Tomorrow War. I thought it was dumb fun. It was a good time. It was... it wasn't the deepest film ever. It had its issues, but overall it was exciting and entertaining. And it looked great. It was a $200 million movie if there ever was one. I'd be curious if, since Amazon is actually making this one this time and not just buying it from, I think it was Paramount, I'd be curious to see, would they spend $200 million on this one again? Probably not. I bet they'd cut the budget down some. There's no word on when we might see a Tomorrow War 2, but since Amazon is clearly pleased with the results, expect news sooner rather than later. If I had to guess, I'd say this movie is about 2 years out from actual release. I doubt we'll get it next year. They'll probably be shooting it next year. I wouldn't be surprised if they knock out a script, get everybody together, get some contracts going, and then next year we hear that they start filming it mid to late year, and then we get it around 2023. I wouldn't be surprised at that. This is the type of movie, I said in my review even, that this is a fun movie. It's entertaining while you're watching it, but you're not really it's not one that's going to have lasting staying power, in my opinion. I don't think that this movie is going to be one that in 5-10 years you're going to be like, oh yeah, remember the Tomorrow War? That was really cool with this. No, it has its moment. It's going to have its moment. It's going to be big for a while, and then I think it's just going to go away. So if they want to capitalize on the popularity of it right now, they need to release this movie as quickly as possible. I also said in my review, too, by the way, that, well, after saying that, but who knows, maybe it'll spawn a big franchise. And this is the start of that, so I could, maybe that's what's going to happen. We might get the Tomorrow War 3, 4, and 5 after this. Who knows? I mean, if the Fast and Furious can do it, anything can do it. So, hey, if you like the Tomorrow War, there's more Tomorrow War coming. Just not going to be tomorrow. It might be the day after tomorrow. Now, speaking of odd sequels, this isn't really a sequel. This was initially supposed to be a sequel. It's been repurposed from a filmmaker who has gotten... This has probably been this particular filmmaker, or at least last year and this year, if not just this year, been this particular filmmaker's biggest year or years, just definitely the biggest time of his life, for sure. You couldn't go a few days, or at least a week, without hearing this guy's name, having some really big, exciting movies come out, and just all kinds of news surrounding him. Starting with his re-release of a pseudo-popular movie that became even more popular, the re-release, to his new film, and now we're going to talk about his new movie. And of course, I'm talking about Zack Snyder, and how apparently we're getting Zack Snyder's Star Wars, kinda. He apparently wrote a script some years ago for a Star Wars or maybe like a spinoff or a movie based in the Star Wars universe. He wrote quite some time ago, pitched it to him, got shot down, but it's been like bouncing around in his head, and he's done a lot of work with it over the years, and now he's ready to make it. Of course, it won't be set in the Star Wars universe, but that is what it started its life as. And we're going to get to the synopsis of what we know so far, and I think there's some hints of Star Wars in there for sure, some strong hints. Zack Snyder has set his next project, an epic sci-fi titled Rebel Moon, that name itself, Rebel, that he is co-writing and will direct and produce for Netflix, the home of his most recent hit, Army of the Dead, and it reteams the filmmaker with many creative colleagues from his past original ventures. The story is set in motion when a peaceful colony on the edge of the galaxy is threatened by the armies of the tyrannical regent named Belisarius. I'm going to go with that. Desperate, the colonists dispatch a young woman with a mysterious past to seek out warriors from a neighboring planet to help them make a stand. That's very Star Wars sounding right there. That is definitely a Star Wars spinoff right there unto itself. Snyder had to say, "This is me growing up as a Akira Kurosawa fan and a Star Wars fan," Snyder tells The Hollywood Reporter. "It's my love of sci-fi and giant adventure. My hope is that this all becomes a massive IP and a universe that can be built out. Rebel Moon will be Snyder's next movie, and the hope is to begin production in early 2022. I've been working on this on the side for so long, it's pretty far along," he says. So yeah, he'll probably start shooting it next year. Netflix is another one that tries to pump out movies fairly quick when they're popular, and Snyder is a hot commodity right now, so they probably want to get as much out of him as they can while he's still on everyone's, the tip of everyone's tongue. But yeah, this is pretty cool. I mean, it was initially put out there as a more adult vision of the Star Wars world and lore, or just universe. That's why I think it was kind of like a spin-off off to the side. And obviously, going to a neighboring world to get these people to help make a mistake. Those are the Jedi. They were going to be going to get Jedi or something like that, probably. And all that is very Star Wars sounding. It's also very Akira Kurosawa sounding as well, which Star Wars is based on some of his films. So that makes sense. If you're not sure who Akira Kurosawa is, look him up. Masterful filmmaker from back in the day that many movies have pulled from his filmography, like Seven Samurai and just totally blanked on everything. Definitely Seven Samurai is definitely his most popular film, but he's made tons of great films. I've seen quite a few of them. I was on like a kick some years ago and just binged a ton of them. Fantastic films all around. He's got one, it starts with an R, Rugo, or it's one single word. It's a Japanese word. and is a fantastic movie, by the way, as well. Anyway, he's made lots of great movies. Check him out sometime. That's where Star Wars got, George Lucas got the idea for Star Wars. He based it a lot on Kurosawa's movies, and apparently Snyder is as well. I'm looking forward to this. Zack Snyder, I don't think up to this point he's done sci-fi. I mean, maybe Watchmen had some pseudo sci-fi stuff going on, but not really. It was more comic book. It was definitely comic book. But he has not ventured into sci-fi territory as of yet. Sci-fi is probably, if not my favorite, definitely my top 2 or 3 favorite genres out there, especially when done right. And Snyder is really good at realizing big, fleshed out worlds. And it sounds like he's been working on this thing for a long time. He doesn't always necessarily execute them properly. It just depends on the property. But he's really good at presenting us with very lived in, fleshed out seeming worlds. Whether they get fleshed out or not we'll see. But I would hope so, seeing as how he's been working on this thing for something like 20 years, he said, or something like that, since around the turn of the century. So, hey, he's had plenty of time to develop this thing. The guy's been putting out some bangers here recently. I don't think he's put out anything terrible for sure. I mean, Army of the Dead was fun. It was pretty good. It wasn't as great as I'd hoped, but it was still entertaining. His version of Justice League, really enjoyed it. The guy's made some movies that I really like, and he's made a couple, Sucker Punch, that I didn't really care much for. But hopefully, this one sounds like it's right up my alley. I'm looking forward to it. And I had heard him talk about this film some time ago, about how he wanted to make a Star Wars movie, and he'd been working on it all these years, and it wasn't going to come to fruition. So it's kind of neat to finally see this thing that I've heard about in the past finally come to fruition. So if you're a Star Wars fan, a Kurosawa fan, or just a Zack Snyder fan, now you know what his next flick is, and we'll be getting it on Netflix at some point in probably the fairly immediate future. Now, we were talking about Fast and the Furious a minute ago. It seems like we can't get by like 1 week without mentioning that damn franchise for quite a while now. And it seems like you'd think, oh, well, Fast 9's out, so it's been out for a bit, so it's probably going to start. We're going to start coming down off of the Fast and the Furious news. Well, I'm here to tell you, no, you're incorrect, because they've got another movie. They're doing more spinoffs, everybody. They're doing more spinoffs, and it's not Hobbs and Shaw. No, the next Fast and Furious spinoff is happening, and are you excited? Because it's about Cypher? Okay. Quick question. I know who the character is, but just anybody listening and or watching right now, who's Cypher? Do you know? Just off the top of your head. Don't look at any pictures. I mean, if you're watching, you see this picture here, you probably already figured it out. But, yeah, not the biggest character, but okay, whatever. I mean, it worked for Hobbs and Shaw. Cypher is the character played by Charlize Theron in the past 2 movies, the big super villain, and we're getting some type of spinoff movie. There's not a lot of info here. This is a very small story, but let's jump into the 2 or 3 sentences I have here about it. After her introduction in The Fate of the Furious and her subsequent appearance in F9, writers are apparently hard at work on a full-blown Cypher spinoff. Say that 3 times fast. No other details are provided. So yeah, it's coming. They're working on it. That's about it. That's all we got. So we're getting a Charlize Theron-led spinoff. I don't know what it'll be, because she's still very much included in the mainline series. Like with Hobbs and Shaw, they were able to take those characters and they kind of go on their own adventure. And as we saw, and I know there was real world drama as well. They weren't in the latest film. Maybe they might be in the next one. They got to bring them back. But anyway, so they were able to kind of like detach them from the mainline films. They can't take her character out of the mainline film. She's like the big villain right now. She's still out there. Sorry if you haven't seen F9. I just kind of spoiled that for you, but she's still out there. She's just still the big bad. I mean, it's very clear at the end of the movie, the last movie, that she is being set up to be doing something bigger, and more things are coming. They're setting up more stuff in the future. They're setting up the end of the franchise, or at least this leg of the franchise. I don't know how I feel about this, but honestly, when I heard about the Hobbs and Shaw spinoff before I saw like the trailer and the actual movie, I was kind of lukewarm and about that too. But then I saw the trailer and I was like, hey, you know what? That looks like it could be fun. And I watched the movie and it was an entertaining ride. It was not the most thought-provoking film ever made for sure, but it was fun. I mean, I had fun for the hour and a half, 2 hours, however long it was. So who knows what they can do? I mean, the writers of the Fast and Furious movies, if nothing else, they know how to tickle that popcorn, dumbass, check your brain at the door fun, just big, dumb fun movies. I just don't, I mean, what, I don't know. What are they going to do, like a prequel or what she does in her off time? I don't know what it's going to be about. Is it going to incorporate any other people in the series? Who knows? But it's coming, so all you Fast fans out there that are kind of, saddened by the fact that they've said that the franchise will come to an end after Fast 11, I think 11 is going to be the last one, so 2 more movies, you can now take solace in the fact that there's 1 more movie coming in the series, at least 1 more movie on top of those coming within that world. I'm sure there will be more, but we have confirmation that 1 more is coming, and it's about Cypher. I wonder if this is going to be like a Captain Marvel situation, where they're like, hey, you've got to go see this Cypher movie to understand what's going on in like Fast 10 or 11 or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised if they release this movie between 10 and 11, and there's something that they, or at least they tell us in this movie, that we need to understand what happens in the climax of Fast 11 or some bullshit like that. I hope they don't do something real contrived like that. But hey, you know what? They're probably going to. So get ready for that, Fast fans. Add another movie to the list. We have no idea when it's coming, what it's about. We just know that Charlize Theron's Cypher is at the center of it. There you go. I mean, what else do you need? Shit's gonna blow up and be kind of over the top and crazy. I bet that much. Speaking of shit blowing up and shit being crazy, maybe not blowing up, but definitely crazy. This was a story I read and I did a double take and I was like, what, that's a thing? And then in thinking about it, I'm like, I guess I'm not really surprised it's a thing. I'm actually surprised it took this long, but I wonder what direction this is going to go. Not a property I'm really big into or too terribly interested in, but it is, my interest is piqued, I will say that much. And I'm talking about the absolutely gorgeous, fantastic, wonderful Margot Robbie is apparently going to be a Barbie girl in a Barbie world. Oscar-nominated filmmaker Greta Gerwig has officially signed on to direct Barbie, the highly anticipated big screen take on the iconic Mattel doll story starring Margot Robbie. I didn't even know this was a thing. But like I said, while it's a little surprising after a little bit of thought, I'm like, okay, I mean, I guess it's not that surprising. Actually, I'm surprised it hadn't happened already. When discussing the movie, the Oscar-nominated actor and producer first acknowledged that Barbie comes with a lot of baggage and a lot of nostalgic connections. But with that come a lot of exciting ways to attack it, she explained. People generally hear Barbie and think, we know what that movie is going to be. And then they hear that Greta Gerwig is writing and directing it, and they're like, oh, well, maybe I don't. Robbie previously told Variety's Mark Malkin that the movie serves as a great opportunity to put some positivity out in the world with a chance to be aspirational for younger kids. A 2023 theatrical release is planned. That's about all we got on it. You know, I look at this and I'm like, this is not going to be my kind of movie. But you know what? They could actually do something with this. And Gerwig she's a very accomplished director and an actress, by the way. But she did, what was it, the bird song? No. I can't remember the name of the movie she did. She got a lot of acclaim for it. There's been a couple of them. She's done some really good work so far. And it hasn't been like what you would have initially imagined a Barbie movie being. So I'm interested to see what she's going to do with this. Are they going to take like a tongue-in-cheek approach to this? And who knows? I don't know much about Barbie besides, common knowledge. But I think it would be awesome. I mean, I've seen some of the CGI movies. There's a lot of CGI like shows and movies, and I only know that because I have a lot of daughters. I have a lot of daughters, and they watched all that stuff when they were younger. So I'm familiar to a degree with Barbie, just in passing. And I really want them to subvert expectations here. I want them to come out with a movie that is, like Margot Robbie said, is, positive and all that, and put some positivity out in the world. But I just want to be really tongue-in-cheek about it. Make it where us adults that have to go sit with our kids watching this movie can actually get some enjoyment out of it. That would be an interesting take. I do like the fact that Margot Robbie did make that comment that this is an opportunity to put some positivity in the world and be aspirational for younger kids. That's good, because part of me was like, what are they going to do with this movie? Are they going to do some type of message movie or something like that? Doesn't sound like it. I mean, you never know. One person's positivity is another person's negativity, and who depends on what you find to be aspiring as to what you want to teach kids. But it sounds like they're wanting to do something that just steps away from all the bullshit out in the world and put something really, really positive out there. And I can totally get behind that. Even if this movie is not for me, even if this movie is not in my wheelhouse and nothing that I will connect with, if they put something out there that's just positive and kind of escapism and just is something good and entertaining and positive for kids to watch that's not total, trash, I'm all for this movie. Good for them. I do think that with this, with Margot Robbie and Gerwig attached to it, I think that this movie is going to be more than we initially think on the surface. I could be totally wrong. It might come out and just be exactly what we're thinking. Barbie Horse Rider or some shit like that. I don't know. But why bring on this level of talent? Why bring on... I mean, Margot Robbie, I get it. She almost looks like a Barbie doll. But like Gerwig, why bring her on to direct a Barbie movie unless they have... some other idea going on. She's also writing it as well. She and someone else have been working on the script since 2019. So a Barbie movie that is taking 2 years to write also seems like, what are they doing here? I'm intrigued. I want to know I want to see the first trailer of this thing. I want to get the tone. I want to know what the story is. I'm wondering if they're going to really subvert a lot of expectations with this Barbie movie. I hope so. I really hope so. I hope this ends up being a breakout. Like when we see Barbie, it's kind of tongue-in-cheek and we're like, oh my God, a Barbie movie. And then all of a sudden we're like, holy crap, that movie was actually really fun. What happened? Who knows? We'll find out apparently in 2023, which is right around the corner. Let's it seems like that's a long way away. I mean, it's 2021 and we're already halfway done. So year and a half-ish, somewhere in there, year and a half, 2 years, we're going to get a Barbie movie. And that's just not really surprising, honestly enough. You would think that they would be a surprise, and it's just not. Like I said, I'm more surprised that it hadn't already happened. But on with the show. Now, we got on from Barbie, and we're going to get on to something more exotic. Keyword being exotic. I'm, of course, talking about Joe Exotic, and there are actually a number of projects in the work for Joe Exotic, TV shows, movies, etc., etc. But we're talking about one in particular, the Amazon, I believe it's Amazon one. It says, Variety reports that Twin Peaks heartthrob and nerd deity Kyle MacLachlan has been cast to portray Howard Baskin, who defends Carol even when she's accused of feeding her ex to tigers. MacLachlan will star opposite series lead Kate McKinnon, who will play Carol. John Cameron Mitchell will play their rival, absolute wildman, con artist, and convicted felon, Joe Exotic. Joe Exotic is currently the working title of the show, which is based on the Wondery podcast reported by Robert Moore. Yeah, this particular show is based on a podcast. I'm not familiar with the podcast, but apparently there's a podcast that tells the true story of the Tiger King and all that stuff. How it differs from the Netflix show and other things like that, I don't know, but apparently that's what it's at least loosely based on. So the other Joe Exotic Tiger King series will star Nicolas Cage and is set to debut on Amazon Prime at some point. Okay, I had that backwards. This is the Peacock one. Neither series has any details about release dates at this time. Well, since they've got all this cast and everything, and it didn't say if they're shooting yet or not, but they got this cast and everything going, so I assume that this thing will be coming out in the next year or so at some point. We'll see. But what I wanted to touch on here was Kyle MacLachlan is... I think this movie is going to be out there. I mean, the whole story is kind of out there. Obviously, the Nicolas Cage one, Nicolas Cage is Joe Exotic. That is going to be fucking epic. But we're not talking about that one. I do think that John Cameron Mitchell, which I know some people aren't as familiar with his work. I'm very familiar with his work. He will be fantastic as Joe Exotic as well. He if you've seen him in, he's been in Short Bus, he's been in, of course, Hedwig and the Angry Inch, things of that nature. That guy being Joe Exotic, absolutely, I totally get it. I see it 100%. Him with Kyle MacLachlan over here doing his weird kind of oddities. It was a real odd, like David Lynchian role, or not David Lynchian, but David Lynch roles that he's played in quite a bit, Twin Peaks-esque. That is going to work beautifully together. I'm excited to see the show, and I wasn't the biggest fan of Tiger King. I kind of like the meme status of it more than anything. The actual sitting down and watching it, I watched most of it, but I was kind of tuning in and out as it went on and just catching the highlights, if you will. But this could be just a batshit crazy, kind of surreal, out there show. And I really hope that's the direction they're going. Giving the people that they are casting in it, I think that's how they're going to go. I don't think this is going to be like a hardcore, like straight and narrow, realistic take on the whole thing that happened. I think there's going to be a little bit of surrealism going on, at least with this particular one. Probably with the one with Nicolas Cage, too, because fucking Nicolas Cage is in it. That's the only thing that would, if they could just take these two shows and meld them together with this cast, I think they would have something fucking epically magical, by the way. But that's not going to happen. Hopefully, we just get two really weird, out there surreal shows about this fucking crazy ass story, by the way. If you haven't looked at, I can't necessarily suggest, if you're into documentaries and you're into some like really wild out there shit, yeah, check out Tiger King. It's an entertaining watch. Like I said, it just lost my attention at some parts, but and some people, a lot of people loved it. But the story itself is fascinating. Absolutely check it out. It is stranger than fucking fiction. This shit, you almost think that it is fiction. It's so out there and wild and crazy. But it's not. This shit's all fucking real. I mean, of course, depending on who's telling the story as to what parts they are omitting and adding. But it's all, more or less, this is how it went down. So it's a wild-ass story. You should check it out. It is an entertaining watch. Like as I said, a whole lot of people liked it. You couldn't go anywhere without hearing about it. And apparently over the course, I would say within the next year, we're going to get at least one of these shows. I don't know if these, I'm sure these are mini-series. They're not going to be ongoing shows. I don't see how they can really take this thing and make it an ongoing show, seeing as how it does have an actual definitive end with the real-life events. So I bet this is going to be like a mini series of sorts, like a limited, I think they call it a limited access show or a limited show or something like that. So I'm looking forward to this. John Cameron Mitchell and Kyle MacLachlan on screen together in these really colorful real life characters, I think could be something special. So if you're a fan of Joe Exotic or the Tiger King and all that, you should be looking forward to this, because I think that it could definitely be a good time. Now, from Tiger Kings to symbiote alien comic book character monster things, let's talk about Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and how it's got an unexpected writer. And who could that unexpected new writer be? Well, none other than the man, the myth, the legend himself, and the main actor in the film, Tom Hardy. Apparently, Tom Hardy has a writing credit, a major writing credit, with the new Venom film, the sequel and follow-up to, I think it was 2018's Venom. Empire brings us in the unexpected news that Tom Hardy will actually be getting a story by credit for the upcoming Venom, Let There Be Carnage. This is new for him, says the original writer, to get credit. But it's not new for him to be this involved. He's absolutely 100% committed to everything he does. I've heard that about Hardy. I've heard that he goes like all in on the movies he's part of. Like he is like verges on method acting. He's married to Venom. He loves this character. He's very involved in what he thinks should happen. Marcel, the original writer, or the other writer on the film, goes on to detail Hardy's process. He doesn't get a pen and write. He spent months breaking the story down on FaceTime, riffing on ideas, seeing what worked, seeing what didn't. Then I took everything he spoke about and holed up somewhere for 3 months quietly knocking out a script. Venom, Let There Be Carnage is scheduled for release on September 24th, 2021 here stateside. So yeah, this isn't like a huge thing. It's not the first time that an actor or one of the main actors in a film has been part of the writing process, especially someone who plays a character that's already played the character. This is nothing tremendously new. They don't always get story credit, like official story credit, so that is kind of big. That means he must have had a big hand in what this story was going to be about, and I think that's pretty cool, man. Good for him. What I do like about this, just as a side note, the original Venom, I didn't hate it. I thought it was okay. I will say the general consensus was people liked it a bit more. Most people liked it a bit more than I did. I thought it was fine, but I wanted a lot more out of Venom. But I am also a really big Venom fan and have been a big Venom fan since he first appeared. I'm not that big into comic books now. I never was like huge into like all comic books, but I was big into like some niche comic books like Spawn, Venom, the Alien comics and Predator comics and Watchmen, things like that. Some of the like outliers, I always liked those. I really liked how Venom was an anti-hero. He was a bad guy, but he was a good guy. So I was always interested in that character. So when he came here, I think I've actually still got Venom number 1, 2, and 3, like original copies. I wonder if those are worth any money. Anyway, when the movie came out, I had fairly high expectations, and I was a little let down, especially with the ending scenes, the ending big fight culmination thing, whatever that was, that CGI mess that they puked out on the screen that was just like a glob fighting with two people in it every now and then. I hated that. So I do really like, because Tom Hardy has shown that he's like really invested in this character. He loves this character. He was one of the driving forces in getting the first movie made. So I think it's really cool that he's taken that. He clearly has passion for his craft, and I think it's really neat that he's taking that and they listened to it so much to where they actually started allowing him to be part of the writing process, and he's putting all that in. This movie has a lot going for it. I mean, we got Woody Harrelson as the villain, which Woody Harrelson can be a great villain. He's a great actor, period. But as a comic book villain, oh my God, why haven't we gotten Woody Harrelson as a comic book villain already? Just seems like it should have already happened. Tom Hardy was good as Venom. The trailer looks good. It's directed by Andy Serkis, and I really respect Andy Serkis and think that he's a really good director. I don't feel like Serkis would have made this movie if he was handed a script that was like the last one. I think this one is going to be much more exciting. His filmmaking style is much faster than other movies, but he also likes to explain things. He likes to flesh out his stories and his worlds, and the movie will probably look fucking fantastic because Andy Serkis, I mean, he's a pioneer, been a part of the pioneering of some great special effects over the past few decades. I mean, he was Gollum, he was Caesar in the Planet of the Apes movies, and he knows how to work with effects. That's another thing. Like that first movie, those ending fight scenes were so terrible. I gotta think that they just didn't know what they were working with. Serkis absolutely knows more than most, I would say, what it's like to work with special effects. I think he probably has an eye for being able to see these things before they're actually there. So the movie will look great. We shouldn't get another hodgepodge of nasty just colors splattered on screen and not really know who won except for the fact that we know it's a Venom movie, so he's going to win. Hopefully, I think this movie is going to be better. It has a lot more going for it than the first one. And I do think it's neat that they actually not just took it into account, but allowed him to be the writer, because the guy does seem pretty passionate about it. However, the only one caveat to that, overall, I'm very positive on this, and I am looking forward to the movie. I'm excited again for Venom, and that's great. But Tom Hardy strikes me as one of those actors or artists that he has some great, like, if done right, he has been fantastic. But I think that he's also one that needs a director, and Serkis may be the one, that can reel him in, that can keep, not totally, you want to let him loose a bit, but it has to keep him reeled in a bit or he'll go too far. Case in point, last year's absolute fucking disaster, Capone. That movie seemed like a movie where he got in there and just went full fucking method, and there was nobody there to say, hey, Tom, yeah, let's tone that back a little bit. You went a little too far there. No, they just let him do his thing and said, well, it's Tom Hardy. He knows what he's doing. No, he needs somebody to, like, keep him in check. And probably all great actors and artists, period, need that. Sometimes you need someone on the outside looking in saying, hey, reel that in a bit, bud. So hopefully Serkis is the one to do that, and hopefully he didn't go like too far with the story and things get like too far and kooky and out there. So I don't think so, though. It sounds like the guy has a pretty good feel for the Venom character and the world, and I'm interested to see how this story pans out with so much of his input included in it. And like I said, given the trailer, everybody who's involved with it, and now this, I am excited once again for a Venom movie. Because after that first movie, I was like, well, yeah, they'll probably make a sequel. This movie's making a lot of money, but I don't care. Now I'm excited again. I can't wait until September 24th if it doesn't get delayed. I still believe that, because it's a Sony property, that Netflix will do everything they can to push some of these movies out just a smidge further into, because anything that comes out in 2022 and beyond, they get first rights for streaming. So I could see them doing that. I don't know how anything that comes out this late in 2021 works, but I know for a fact they have that deal signed, so we'll see. But anyway, Venom 2, Venom Let There Be Carnage. I'm excited. How about you guys? Now, our last story of the night. I know that went kind of quick. It did, at least for me. This one's more of a funny. This is the palate cleanser of the evening. We didn't have any like truly negative stories tonight. Plenty of negative stuff going on in the world and in Hollywood, but I don't report on that shit because we all deal with that shit enough. But this story made me laugh. I think it'll make a lot of people laugh, or at least go, "Oh my god!" Except for one person. The person involved is probably not laughing. I think he's taking it in stride now, and you know what? The guy's rich as fuck, so he's gonna be okay. But turns out he could have been a whole lot richer, like a ridiculous amount richer. And I'm talking about the one and only Matt Damon, which is now to be dubbed the world's biggest doofus. Yes, Matthew Damon, I think you're a phenomenal actor, but you are also a fucking dumbass. I mean, how is he supposed to... Well, he should have known because it was James Cameron. Anyway, moving on. Speaking at a Cannes masterclass via Deadline, Matt Damon talked about one of the biggest roles that he has never been offered. Well, that he has ever been offered, I'm sorry. And why he turned it down. Get this. Specifically, the actor explained how James motherfucking Cameron, not only offered him the lead role in Avatar, the first one in 2009, but the filmmaker was willing to give Damon 10% profit. 10% of the film's profit. For those unaware, Avatar is the highest grossing film of all time by a large margin, earning approximately $2.85 billion worldwide. And it's probably going to get re-released again here in the States when we get closer to this the sequels that are coming out. So I bet it'll cross 300 or 3 billion. Anyway, this is in Damon's words. I was offered a little movie called Avatar. James Cameron offered me 10% of it, Damon said. I will go down in history, he said. You will never meet an actor who turned down more money than me. For those of you that can't do the math right out, 10% of $2.85 billion is $285 million fucking dollars. And he probably would have had a salary on top of that. It would have probably been a smaller salary because that's what they usually do with percentages. But $285 million. Holy shit. He would have definitely been the highest paid actor in Hollywood by any margin at that point. This guy, he has to think, I mean, he's doing all right. Matt Damon is not hurting for anything. He's doing okay, but he has to fucking facepalm daily that he turned down $285 million. And some would say, well, I mean, how was he supposed to know Avatar was going to be the highest grossing film of all time? No, he wasn't supposed to know that. I mean, I don't think anybody expected that to happen. But I would have expected it to do really fucking well. Why? Because it's fucking James Cameron. Every movie he makes, at least in the past 30 years, 20, 30 years. Well, he's only made 2 movies in the past 20 years, but every movie he makes, really one. Titanic was 98. But every movie he's made in the past 30 years has been a financial success, and each one makes more than the last. He was already, at that time that he asked him this, the director, writer, creator of the highest grossing film of all time, Titanic. And now he's talking about, hey, it's been like, what would that have been, like 10 years at that point since I made a movie, and now I'm making another one, and it's my magnum opus. Come be in it. Nah, you can get 10%. Even if he didn't think the movie was going to make, I don't think anybody thought it was going to make $2.85 billion. But even if it just made $1 billion, I mean, that's still $100 million, you know? Maybe he didn't think, I don't know. I don't know how anybody would have turned this down. I mean, and it's an opportunity to work with James fucking Cameron. Who doesn't do that? I know I heard the guy's a hard ass on the set, but jeez, he makes great movies. Anyway, according to the actor, he made the moral decision because he wanted to stick around and do the Jason Bourne franchise and not leave those folks behind without their super spy star. Dude, make more than one fucking movie. I mean, shit. At that point in time, he would have been talking about the movie Jason Bourne, because I think by that point, all the 3 original Bourne movies had been made. Yeah, they were. Those movies had been made. Identity, Supremacy, and Ultimatum had already been made. There was a third one that Jeremy Renner was in. He wasn't even in it. And then, of course, he had the movie Jason Bourne, came out a few years later. I think it was around 2009, 2010. So it would have been around the same time. I feel like if he had gone to the filmmakers, Paul Greengrass, I think, made that, and said, hey, I'm doing this other movie. I want to do Jason Bourne, but can we postpone it just a little bit longer? They would have been like, okay, yeah, sure. And plus, I doubt he made anywhere near... He didn't make a fucking... Not even a fraction does not do it justice to what he could have made on Avatar. Plus, Jason Bourne just wasn't that great of a movie. From what I remember, it was just kind of, I mean, it's fine. I'm a fan of the Jason Bourne movies too, but the movie Jason Bourne was just kind of, I mean, I'm no better that movie came out. I don't really care that it came out. It was fine. It was all right. It was whatever. Fan service, if you will, but it didn't really light the world on fire. So, man, that guy, he has got to be every fucking day facepalming saying, I turned down not only the $285 million fucking dollars. That's enough reason, but also the opportunity to be the lead in the biggest movie ever made. Like, till this day, that movie came out in 2009. That's 12 years ago. And, I mean, yes, it got dethroned for about a year by Endgame, but then they came back and, like, very quickly got their throne back. And they will probably create an even wider margin, as I said, because I guarantee they'll re-release it again. So, yeah, he could have been the face of not just the biggest movie, because Sam Worthington, who did eventually get the part, he's coming back for at least some of the sequels, if not all of them. So, man, I bet he just is like, fuck, what was I thinking? I know I would, damn. But as I said, you know, don't shed any tears for Matt Damon, because he's doing all right. I'm sure his bank account is not hurting, and he's going to be pretty set for the rest of his life. But damn, $285 million. That is crazy. All right, guys, so that is all I got as far as news stories go this week. Not a whole lot, like I said, going on in the entertainment world besides Black Widow and Marvel's first movie in 2 years. That's kind of dominated everything in the news sphere as far as like entertainment goes. There have been a lot of stories that were surrounding it. And of course, if you hear this, if you listen to this kind of, or have your ear to the ground for this type of entertainment news at all. You've probably heard there's a lot of things talking about what the movie is or is not and blah, blah, blah. I wasn't even going to get into that. I didn't get into it with my review because myself, quick and easy. No, was there some of that in it? Maybe, but I didn't feel as if any of it was overbearing. I didn't feel like the movie was, and believe me, if it was, I would say, because I don't like that shit, or not that shit. That sounds really bad. I don't like when movies take an agenda when the movie has nothing to do with that, and they try and push an agenda through a different medium, through a movie that it does not belong in, and I don't care for that. I think I'm all about equality, everybody being, having equal opportunity and things like that, but these movies, that's not what they're about. They're escapism. Leave them the fuck alone when it comes to these current events things. But yeah, there's been a lot of talk about that stuff, and I wasn't getting into that shit because that's never, good conversation. It doesn't lead anywhere good. But hey, I hope for those of you that were looking for that in the movie, if you found it, I hope it made you happy. For those of you that weren't, I think that you can see anything in any movie that you want to see. If you want to see it, it'll be there. If you don't, it won't. Me, myself, personally, I wasn't looking for it either way, and I didn't feel like it was there. There was some bad decisions in the movie. There was some vanilla kind of blandness in the movie, but overall, the movie was entertaining. Like I said in my review, I recommend checking it out. That's really all the week was, though, is Black Widow and Marvel, and hey, we made a lot of fucking money. And that's about it. Not much else going on, as you could tell from the stories I had. Oh, and we found out that Matt Damon lost $285 million fucking dollars. Jesus Christ, I'm not going to let that go. I do have some trailers to look at this week. Last week I didn't have any. There were some that came out. One I'm very excited about. I really wanted to watch it. And the other one I'm just kind of like, okay, well, yeah, that's interesting. Let's see. Maybe I'll be excited after I watch it. So I guess we should probably go ahead and jump into those. Now, this first one that we're going to take a look at is the one that will I watch this or not? I don't know. Maybe after I see this trailer, I will. I think this is a show. I'm pretty sure this is a Disney Plus show. I don't know. I have not paid much attention to this as it's developed. I think it may be a show or an anthology. Maybe it'll be a movie. I'm not sure. Let's find out. But what I'm talking about is Marvel Studios' What If. We got our first trailer for the What If movies, or not movies, but animated. I believe they're animated show or shows or shorts or something like that. I'm not sure. They're coming. They're coming real soon, and I'm assuming they're coming to Disney Plus. I'm sure. I don't think this is a theater deal. I guess it's kind of like it takes the stories that we know well from the MCU and says, what if this happened instead? I don't know. What if Tony Stark died in Iron Man 1 and somebody else took over? I don't know if that's one of the ones, but it's these what if situations that people have always asked. Do we get to see them? These like alternate, I don't know if they're alternate universes, but they're alternate versions of what could have played out. So, but they have finally released the first one here for us for our viewing pleasure, and let's check out the first What If from Marvel.
Yeah, peace. I love peace. I'd be out of a job with peace.
Hey, that's from Iron Man 1. I don't know if I'm in love with this art style, though. Is that Killmonger?
Do we know each other?
Okay, that's interesting.
Reality.
I'm not sure about this art style, man. Part of me thinks some of it's neat, and then part of me is like, eh.
Where you want to be? That's the question.
It's almost like they're trying a rotoscoping thing from back in the day, but it's not. It's all animated. CG, I think.
Is different. Each one.
Howard the Duck!
Slow down a little bit. There's a few people in the room that don't understand.
Oh, that's Chris Hemsworth's voice.
Not me. I get it.
Okay, it's coming in August. Oh, a female Captain America. Oh, that's Carter.
Carter.
Yeah, shit, what's her name? The woman he hooked up with.
I observe all that transpires here, but I do not.
Oh, that's the zombie Marvel characters. I've heard of that.
I guess I have to freestyle then.
I think this uses all the voices of the...
A Ravager never flies solo.
Well, obviously not Chadwick Boseman, but...
I said never flies solo.
Is that some kind of catchphrase?
You had me worried for a second.
I don't think that was Chadwick Boseman. Maybe he recorded this before he passed. I don't think so, though. That didn't sound like him. Oh, yeah, it's original series, August 11th. All right, so, yeah, that... I mean... Sure. I mean, that could be fun. I wonder if those... Are they going to be, like, full episodes of each one? Or are they going to be... Is it going to be... You know what, I think this would be more interesting as kind of like a Love and Robots type of thing, where it would be like... they'd all be shorts or something like that. I think that would be really interesting if they were all like short, like one. I guess that was all. That was actually a series, so those were episodes. But I don't know if I would want like full on 45-minute or hour-long episodes of these what if situations. I mean, who knows? They might do good. I'll give Marvel that. While I'm not fully convinced in this phase 4 where they're headed, or where Marvel's headed from here, and if it's going to work out or not. I'll give them that much. They do pretty good. I mean, they know how to scratch that entertainment itch, if you will, for the most part. So far, they're still doing pretty good with that. Now, I mean, I don't know. The art style, there was part of me that looked at it and I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. But I don't know how I feel about the art style with this or not. Like some of it looked neat and some of it looked cheap. I don't know if it's all the same. I think it's all the same art style too. It's not like a Love and Robots thing where like different studios took and did their own version of the art style as the show goes on, or with each different episode maybe. Who knows? I think that would be more interesting. But no, Marvel's much more uniform than that. They don't like things being that kind of out there and separated. So if they're putting their name behind this What If series, I guarantee they're all going to have the same art style. But I couldn't decide whether I liked it or not. I'm going to need to see more. I'm going to need to see one of the episodes to see if I like it or not. I'm leaning a bit more towards I don't like it as much. I mean, it might still be a good show, and I'm not going to like totally like hate it because of that. But there's something about the art style I just didn't. It looked kind of, at times it looked really good, but then at other times it looked kind of Saturday morning cartoon cheap. But you know, maybe that was just the trailer. You know, I will reserve judgment until I actually see it. There also wasn't. Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm not the most keen-eyed Marvel fan, and that's the problem. But besides, obviously, the Killmonger showing up and saving Tony Stark in the beginning of Iron Man 1. Yeah, I saw like Black Panther and Michael Rooker's character. Oh man, what is his name? They were working together and things like that. I mean, I want to see more of those big moments that we know from the movies that go a different way. That's what, in my opinion, the what if scenario should be. I was hoping we'd see more of those. I didn't offhand, just watching it, see any of that. I just saw a bunch of stuff happening. Yeah, Peggy Carter was Captain America, or Captain Carter, I guess. How's that happen? I don't know. I guess we'll find out. But I wanted to see some familiar... That's what I wish this trailer was, a little bit more of a, hey, here's a familiar situation, but done a bit different. It's what if this had happened? So I'm sure that the show will give us that. So, hey, we'll check it out. August 11th. I guess this is the next Marvel show after Loki, which ends tomorrow, in fact. I'll check it out. I'll at least give the first few episodes a watch and see if it's worth it. I hope they release all these at once and they don't do that week by week thing like they've been doing with some of their shows. Just release them all at once, especially if they're shorts. Yeah, and I don't know how I feel if they're like full length. We'll see. I mean, I'll give it a go and check it out. And who knows? Maybe it'll surprise me. All right, so the next one that we got is the one that I've really been waiting on. This is a show as well. It's not a movie. And I've been looking forward to this show, this second season of this show coming for quite some time. And I'm really excited about this, and I'm really excited to see this trailer. I'm a fan of the book series. I've read all the books that this series is based on. And I'm curious to see if they are going to go the route of the book series. And I am talking about The Witcher. We are finally getting season 2 to The Witcher. And I think this is going to be the season that really puts it over the top. I am honestly surprised with season 1 because season 1 was based on the first book, which was actually, and that's something the season didn't do as good at explaining, was that the first book is actually a compilation of short stories in this world with this character, and it bounces around in time all over the place. And they just made that shit and didn't kind of like really make it as clear at times, especially if you hadn't read the books, where and when you were. So I think that confused a lot of people with the first season, and that's why it did seem kind of convoluted, was because the first book is like that, but the first book is structured in a way where, hey, this is a bunch of different short stories. They string them together in some ways, but it's not like one cohesive story. The actual cohesive, like, through line story, overarching story of The Witcher that begins starts with the second book, which many people just say this is the first book. That's when it starts, and I'm hoping that that's what this... It seemed like in the end of the first season, because there was a little bit of that in season 1 that they sprinkled in there with like Cirilla and whatnot, and that, all of that is what kickstarts the big story in the Witcher world and the books, and that story goes on for a few books, by the way. I'm really hoping that that's what this is. I'm about to hit play, and I just hope that that's what they give us is that. Well, that's what they give me is that book 2, and I will be happy. If that's it, I'll be happy. It's coming apparently December 17th. So let's check out The Witcher Season 2 coming December 17th. Come on, Henry Cavill, my man crush. Don't disappoint me. I doubt you will. You would never do such a thing. Here we go.
So,
Cirilla.
I'm your destiny.
Siri.
You're much more than that, Cirilla.
Yeah! My man! You'll always be my Superman, Henry.
I need to understand some things.
The world is changing. Centra isn't safe for you anymore.
Okay. Where
Exactly
are you
this
going?
camp we're in.
Ah, yes! Yes! They're doing it! Kind of. They skipped some stuff. But maybe it'll be in the show.
Who the hell are you?
Sometimes I feel
Okay.
I feel like
Woo!
I burn the whole world.
The swords!
Facing your fear is not easy.
Oh.
I am here for you.
Is he gonna train her? Okay, they jumped forward a little bit there, but right on.
You run. When I say hide,
You hide!
you hide.
Cirilla is so fucking OP later on, though, man.
Run! Vesemir said that the world outside
Yes!
these walls
Right there. Oh, I thought that was
is a
Cirilla.
dangerous place. But
Siri.
you can find power and purpose. Where is she?
Where's Jennifer? Yes.
If your princess
They didn't kill her off. She's in the books.
barking.
Oh, that was...
Are you sure you're ready for this?
Fuck yes, she is. Siri's a fucking badass. Oh my god.
Welcome back.
It's Jennifer. Ah! Woo! Yes, Lord. Give me more. Yes, they're doing it. Well, it seems that they're doing it right. Thank you, God. Praise the Lord. That's going to be fucking awesome. I loved the first season of The Witcher. They did so good adapting that. I do know that it is a tough watch for the uninitiated, if you will. But even people that aren't familiar with the books that I talked to that just watched the series, while they were a bit confused at times, there was just something captivating about it. And that's because it is such a good story that goes places, man. It goes to some really cool places. It has just a great story that spans over all these books. I do wonder, because the first series, or the first season, while it added some stuff, especially all that stuff with Yennefer was added, like her background and or backstory and stuff. But I thought they did that fantastically. That was so good. That was something they added that was really done really well. I saw a lot of stuff in that trailer that I remember from the books. It's been a while it's been some years since I read the books, but some of it I was like, yeah, I remember that happened. Yes. And some of it I do remember in the timeline, but some of it gets a little foggy. I'm like, when in the book series did that happen? So the first season was, with the exception of those few things from the second book that they sprinkled in there just to kind of like start the seeds growing and tie it all together. It more or less followed the first book fairly well. I'm hoping that that's what they do. Each season's another book or part of a book or something. I hope they follow the book series because it just goes to some really neat places. And Ciri, eventually, it doesn't happen overnight. That's what I really liked about Ciri's character. Is she's a fucking badass. She is a badass, but it does not happen overnight. It happens over a fairly long period of time. She becomes a badass. She becomes a Witcher. In her own right, she's not full-on Witcher, but she doesn't need to be. She's got her powers that we saw in the first one and everything, and those are explained more. But she becomes this like really kick-ass badass. She doesn't need Geralt with her all the time. But he becomes a much more, just a better, fleshed-out, well-known character. It's such a great series. I love that trailer. It was so good. It's got Henry Cavill in it too. Anyway, yeah, if you didn't guess, I'm excited for The Witcher Season 2. I totally go check out. You know what? When The Witcher Season 1 came out, it was the first show that I considered doing an actual review for. I think leading up to this one for December 17th, I'm going to go back and watch Season 1 again. And I think I'm going to do a review of that. Maybe. I say things. I'm like Vin Diesel. I say things sometimes and they never come to fruition. I just talk out of my ass at times. Right now, though, if you ask me, yes, I want to go watch The Witcher and I want to do a review of Season 1. If I do that, I will do a review of Season 2. But I will definitely be watching Season 2. December 17th, don't ask me to do shit because I can tell you exactly where I'm going to be. Right over there on that couch, watching Netflix, watching the fucking Witcher. I'm going to binge it all the way through because it looks so good. I can't wait. It's an early birthday present because my birthday's, what would that be, like a week and a half later? Yes. All right. So yeah, guys, that's the trailers that I've got for this week. Just those two, both TV shows. I don't know. Do we call them TV shows anymore? I mean, I guess, yeah, they're on the television, so I guess they're still television shows. They're just shows. They're shows, not movies. But hey, that Witcher trailer, whew, so good. But that's the trailers I got this week. Maybe we'll get some big movie trailers next week. And maybe we'll have more to talk about. Beyond trailers and stuff like that, we've also got this week's releases, of course. Nothing coming out Wednesday the 14th this week. Wednesday's been pretty dry the past few weeks. But Friday is fucking stacked. We've got Out of Death, never heard of it. Escape Room Tournament of Champions, that got a sequel. I haven't seen it yet. Pig, which I will be doing a review of that. Die in a Gunfight, I have not heard of that. Great White, which I've already seen and have a review on my channel. Don't watch that movie. Roadrunner, a film about Anthony Bourdain. I don't have any interest in seeing that, but I know a lot of people will be interested in seeing that. I've heard a lot about it. The Sleepless Unrest, The Real Conjuring Home. Haven't heard of it, but I assume it's something about the Amity. I guess no, probably the Conjuring Home would probably be the Warren's house, maybe. I don't know what that's about, but it has something to do with the Conjuring universe. But it's probably more of a documentary style thing. And of course, the big movie of the week, the one that if anything's going to stand up against Black Widow, or at least put a dent in Black Widow's sales this week, it would be Space Jam: A New Legacy, which I will be doing a review of that as well. I have not yet seen it, and I'm really nervous about it because Space Jam is a terribly good movie that should not work on any level and has so many issues, but every one of its issues somehow end up being a positive. It is the movie that should be a fucking disaster, but ends up being great. And I don't think you could capture that again. We'll find out on Friday the 16th in a few days. Well, I'll find out at least, and I will let you guys know because I will be releasing a review of Space Jam: A New Legacy. Also, coming up this week, I have Fear Street 1666. That review will be coming on Thursday, I believe. No later than Friday. I'm shooting for Thursday. I get my screener on Wednesday. If I can knock it out and get a trailer or a review cut, it will be out Thursday morning. Pig, new Nicolas Cage movie, Space Jam: A New Legacy, and more. Keep the rest a little bit of a surprise. Retro Wednesday gameplay stream is going to be a little FMV Roach game that one of my patrons suggested called Bad Mojo. I'll be playing that. If you're watching this at the premiere, it will be tomorrow night at 9 o'clock Central Time. And yeah, that's about it, everybody. That's all I got this week. There's the news. There's the trailers. There's what I got coming. That is the show. Of course, as I've said, I've here recently, I have a Patreon now. Go check that out. I think there's some pretty cool stuff on there. If you have some suggestions of some things you think that I should add to the tiers, I'm always open to suggestions. But if you want to help out the channel financially, hey, become a Patreon. If you don't, then you don't have to. It's cool. I'm not begging for it. Go do it. But I'm not begging for it or anything. But if you want to be more of an active participant or possible more active participant in the channel and things like that, check out some of that stuff. If any of it talks to you or speaks to you, then hey, maybe you might want to donate. I also have a Discord. All the stuff, links for all this is in the comments, or not comment section, the description of this video or on my YouTube channel. I have a Discord that I'm trying to build up. I love hearing from you guys throughout the day at random times, just about random ass things. I've got there's a few people on there now. We talk here or there, and I periodically stop in and just see what everybody's doing, and we talk a little shit about just random ass shit. So I also post all my videos and streams and all that stuff over there first. This podcast is on all other major podcasting platforms as well, so go check it out there if you're more interested in the audio version. If you like the video version, check out my YouTube channel, Jacob Anders Reviews. That's where this premieres every Tuesday night at 9 o'clock Central Time. Check out whatever time zone you live in to figure out what that is. And yeah, ladies and germs, that's all I got. I'm this week, you probably noticed I'm being a bit louder this week than usual. No, I didn't turn the volume up. That's actually me. This is my regular speaking volume. Yes, I'm loud, but I'm in a house all by myself. My family left me. Just for a day or two, though. My wife and kids went on a little getaway vacation thing. I was unable to get away from work, my actual day job, and they went, and I had the house to myself for, they will be back tomorrow morning. I've been in this house for 2.5 days all by myself, and that's new to me. I have 6 kids and a wife, so there's never no one in this house, and this is the first time in probably 10 years that I've been in this house alone, especially overnight. So I'm just kind of like, wow, what do I do? I'm kind of lost. I don't know what to do. I guess I'll shoot a podcast and record some videos. But anywho, that's me. That's what I'm got going on. That's why I'm not kind of talking like this week, kind of under my breath, because I'm afraid I'm going to wake up the baby or some other people. No, it's just me here, so I can be as loud as I fucking want to be. Anywho, you guys, I hope to see those of you that are watching this at the premiere at my Retro Wednesday live stream of Bad Mojo tomorrow night. If you're watching this, it's premiere. You're probably talking to me in the chat right now. I also, by the way, have Thursday night. I don't know when it's coming out because it's not my video, but I'm doing a collaboration with a wonderful content creator Thursday night that some of you may have heard of, called or named Trivial Theater. Check out her channel. She does some really cool good bad movie reviews, and she does a lot of collaborations. She and I have already done one on the Cabbage Patch Kids about a year or so ago, and we're doing another one on one of my favorite good bad movies Thursday night, and I'm not sure whenever she gets done with it, that's when it'll be coming out. I assume it'll be sometime soon, so check her channel out and be waiting for that. I'll let you guys know when it actually does come out, but yeah, check that out. And I hope to see you guys next week on the podcast, of course, but also on the live streams, and check out my videos and stuff. And if I don't see you guys there, I will see you hopefully in the comment sections of my videos. You guys have a fantastic week. I will see you next week. I don't have an outro thing for this podcast yet. Peace, love, chicken grease, mofos.